In our home, the morning was comfortable. I smiled as I noticed that my plan is gradually taking shape as I glanced through my travel journal. I can't wait to share with my family the lavish trip I planned for them. I desire their happiness. This next weekend, a luxurious and renowned resort will host the vacation. My husband came into the kitchen as I was making breakfast for my foursome. His presence filled me with excitement. I wanted to share the vacation with him. David, guess what? I have been preparing something very remarkable for the family and me. Oh, really, do tell, my love. I've been planning the most lavish and grand family vacation, and it's going to be unforgettable. I'm very excited to see what you have in store. How may I assist? Well, I believe sending the invites will be helpful. Your mom will adore it, I'm sure of it. My spouse took a little break. He seemed uncertain about what I had said, as though he was considering something. But will you love having her around? I exhaled. I am at a loss on what to do. Although I am aware of the tension between us, the main goals of this vacation are to build relationships and create memories. I aspire to be the more mature person. I want to get in touch with her and ask her to come on our vacation because of this. My dear, you have such a beautiful spirit. I'm so happy that you're the stronger individual. Well, I'll forward the invitation to her. Together, let's make this vacation one to remember. My spouse gave me a firm hug and a forehead kiss. Nancy, my mother-in-law, and I don't get along well. We constantly disagree on topics, therefore we get into heated disagreements quite a bit. However, I can see that she despises me profoundly. She had her sights set on another girl, David's childhood best friend, and never wanted me to wed him. She had always desired him for her, which is why she gets so irritated with me so much. She has made several attempts to make me look bad in front of everyone. Even worse, she calls me derogatory names. I will always remember one particular occasion. She struck my face. It was the 5th birthday of my son. Despite my best efforts to plan the most extravagant celebration, there was a small error when the caterer's orders conflicted and he neglected to create the cake. In a panic, I started searching for an answer. However, my mother-in-law was furious with me. She called me a moron for planning the celebration. If I had done it, everything would have been perfect, she remarked. She became more irate with each reminder that the guests were still searching for the cake. She took hold of the backup cake, wiped it on my face, and gave me a smack. Anything's a good thing no one witnessed anything because the disturbance took place in the kitchen. Her attack hurt so much that I sobbed. Yet she didn't even say sorry. Facing the visitors as if nothing had occurred, she emerged from the kitchen. After that horrible experience, I made myself get over it and corrected the cake. It was my son's birthday, and I wanted it to go well. I came to comprehend that she may abuse me that day. What she did surprised and horrified me to the core. However, I still want us to get along and establish a connection for the benefit of our family. Our children entered the kitchen a bit later and began to eat their waffles and pancakes. I informed them about the trip. It was lovely to see the enthusiasm in their eyes. Sophia, my oldest, began making a list of things she wanted to accomplish right away. She even made travel plans. As all of this was going on, our youngest child, Leo, finished his waffles and ran to his bed. He declared that he would immediately begin packing his clothing. Observing their delight made my heart melt. I have been picturing this precise moment since I started organizing this vacation. The following day, I devoted my whole day to completing reservations for flights, lodging, and additional costs. Travel guides, brochures, and a laptop screen advertising a luxurious beach resort littered my study. I could feel my heart rate spike with adrenaline. I was hoping for the very best. I'd been engrossed in planning the ideal trip for a whole month. I went all out to get my family the greatest lodgings possible and the nation's top-rated beach resort. I sighed deeply when I scheduled everything at last. Satisfied, I closed my eyes and visualized the immaculate white dunes, the glistening turquoise seas, and the sumptuous lodging. This is the just reward for my family. I paid for everything after taking a brief nap to make sure that all of the family members were comfortable and happy. I gave my mother-in-law some thinking. Would she make an appearance? Is she going to enjoy it? It was my goal that this vacation would bring us together. My spouse subsequently texted me to confirm her presence. She planned to accompany us. I was hoping that the smoothness would continue throughout the trip. But that evening, when my husband got home, he gestured for me to have a private talk. I went to our room after him. He gave off a serious air, as though he had something significant to say. He said, "My mom decided to come with us." "That's fantastic," just like I had intended. Excitement filled my response. But she's already on her way here." "Hold on, what? She's already on her way?" "Yes, and she said she wants to oversee the preparations." "But I'm in charge of that." "Yes, I did tell her not to worry about anything. I assured you that everything was taken care of and that you had already made reservations." "She doesn't trust you, though. She thinks I'll ruin the trip." "Love, I know. I really apologize. However, this is my mom. You're familiar with her. She's dictatorial. Just try to comprehend her and act like the more mature person." I let out a long sigh. There was nothing for me to do. I replied by nodding. My spouse assured me that she would arrive by the next morning. I recalled the birthday of my son. What would happen if there was a travel mishap, such as rescheduled lodging or delayed flights? I could already picture my in-laws' ire. The notion of what kind of mistreatment she may do to me made my heart race. When morning eventually arrived, she finally made it to our home. The children ran to her and gave her hugs. Her strong family orientation was one of her redeeming traits. I walked over to her and gave her a respectful peck on the cheeks. She followed suit, but her tyrannical demeanor reappeared in a few minutes. I was forced to comply with her request for a substantial and nutritious meal. She requested the itinerary after lunch and went over every detail. Her eyes squinted as she turned pages through it. Is something wrong? Am I culpable once more? She rolled her eyes as she gave me a look. Why does she behave in this way? She remained silent. I'm not sure she approves of it because of this. However, it appears that she is not interested in anything I had in mind. Later that evening, my spouse returned home. I heard them conversing. I could see he was really delighted to see his mother. "So, are you sure that your wife will not sabotage this trip because of me?" "No, mother." I could see that Olivia was really excited and motivated to organize this family trip. Her only concern is what's best for us. That girl is awkward and stupid. I'll be observing her every action and calling attention to any errors I see. Mom, please don't do that. That is not how Olivia is. Son, I'm more aware. For once, just have faith in her. I never will. By the way, Maya was asked to accompany us. What? Why not? She is your childhood love, and she recently returned from a trip to Europe. She's the city's most accomplished bachelorette, and I want her to have fun on our vacation. I have to consult Olivia first. Why? Since this is her journey. This was all arranged by her. She has a right to be fully informed. It's not going to occur. He may not like it, but Maya is coming. Here, it's me who needs to be obeyed. Recognized. When I saw my husband, he was irate. Why is my mother-in-law mistreating me like this? Is her hatred of me really that deep? Maya is the girl my mother-in-law wants my husband to marry. She was his childhood buddy. All of my anxieties are surging into my system. This cannot be taking place. Mother-in-law shouldn't get involved in my personal matters. This vacation was paid for and organized by me. Therefore, she can't just invite others along without first asking my permission. That is simply blatantly disrespectful. The trip's day finally arrived. The whole household was giddy with excitement. The children's excitement for the enjoyable activities that were in store for them was overwhelming. My spouse was ecstatic to view the resort as well. Our other family members showed up as well. I was busy packing the food we were going to bring, while my husband and the children loaded the items into our vehicle. As I was about to depart, the pantry door latched from the other side. I had gone there to check some of the items. I became anxious. I yelled for assistance and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. I kept hitting it in an attempt to get someone's notice, but nobody came to my aid. I called out to my mother-in-law after hearing her voice. She only chuckled at me. Well, I apologize so much, but there is a seating issue. Due to a restricted seating arrangement, I have chosen to not include you on the excursion. Maya will take your place, therefore you should remain here. I will personally file your divorce papers with my kid if you ever attempt to get back to me on this. Goodbye. Although I've always known she had hidden agendas, I didn't expect how terrible they would be. This is really harsh. I was aware that she was capable of such things. Fortunately, the pantry had pointed things, which I used to pry open the lock. As soon as I was free, I made my way to our porch, where everyone congregates before heading off on vacation. They were on their way out, having already climbed inside the van. I recognized Maya as the person I saw inside. When my mother-in-law noticed me coming, she told the driver to get out. My kids and spouse were oblivious to me. My spouse texted me after a short while, asking if it was true that my mother had covered the cost of the vacation. You told me falsehoods about having everything ready. I went to my knees. What is my spouse attempting to convey? Was it dishonest of my mother-in-law to claim credit for the vacation that I paid for? No way, this is already excessive. And that's when I got very serious about revealing my mother-in-law's dishonesty and getting the credit I deserve. I began to think of ways I might exact my retribution. I spoke with the resort personnel in private, explaining my intentions and the real reason for the trip's funding. Since they were now traveling for 8 hours, I took my time plotting my retaliation. I informed them that I wanted the beach resort employees to take my family to a lavish banquet in honor of my mother-in-law as soon as they arrived. I also emphasized that the meal has to be opulent and spectacular. I also gave the crew instructions to send me updates in real time. My family was led to the location as soon as they arrived at the beach resort. They informed me that my mother-in-law's insistence that she hadn't reserved a banquet hall nearly led to a confrontation with the receptionist. Ultimately, my itinerary diary did not contain a mention of it. After everyone had taken their seats, a slideshow began to play. The real moment. She had been successful in tricking my family to believing that she was the one who had orchestrated everything. So the reality was exposed by the slideshow. It demonstrated my hard work and careful preparation. In addition, I displayed my mother-in-law's cruelty and animosity against me. The staff informed me that despite my mother-in-law's false appearance of sweetness and heavenly qualities, my family was taken aback by what they found. It was clear that she was embarrassed when her falsehoods were revealed to everyone. I also instructed the staff to underline to my mother-in-law that the cost and duration of the reservation would be incurred as a result of her actions, and that she would be responsible for paying for the banquet space. My mother-in-law finally called me after a time. I responded to it immediately. Her voice was begging to be heard. "Please forgive me, Olivia. I never intended to cause you pain or mislead the family. I was only attempting to establish my value, demonstrate my ability to contribute, and demonstrate your unfitness to be a member of our family. You must accept the repercussions of your conduct. You attempted to take credit for something I worked so hard for by taking advantage of my goodwill. I really apologize. Can I do anything to put things right, please?" "Well, actually, there's something you can do. You will pay for the banquet hall that was booked for 2 days with a $300 per hour rate. But that's a significant amount of money." "It is, indeed. It's a minor cost to pay for the knowledge you have gained. It's time for you to acknowledge the effects of your actions on others around you and the implications of your choices." "Pardon me, please. Not that I have a lot of money. I have no idea what to do." "After that, do yourself the favor and spend a week working there. That should be enough to make up for all the harm you caused on the trip my family was meant to remember." The trip was cancelled as a result of the event. Everyone save my mother-in-law went home. She is entitled to work there and get paid in full. My hubby gave me a hug. I am so proud of you for standing up for yourself, and I'm sorry for not realizing what was happening sooner. It's not exclusive to me. It concerns the value of honesty and trust in our family. We've all gained important knowledge from this event. My mother-in-law genuinely had to learn her lesson the hard way after that. I'm positive that the vacation my family and I have rescheduled will be even more wonderful.
My name is Jack, and I'm an office worker. But there's been a long-standing feud in my department between my boss, Tom, and me. We always seem to clash. Tom, I really think that approach is bound to fail. We need to plan this out properly, I'd say, trying to push for some common sense. But Tom's work was always sloppy, causing trouble for the rest of the team. Everyone else was too scared to stand up to him, our fearsome boss. I'm the only one who ever speaks out. "Shut it, Jack. You're so annoying," Tom would say, sighing dramatically, his dismissive tone sparking yet another argument. Today was no different, with Tom and me butting heads again. But what made today unusual was the way Tom kept smirking, even as he lectured me in front of everyone, a humiliating situation. "What's with that attitude?" I shot back, frustrated. "If you have a problem, just say it." Tom's smirk deepened, his eyes gleaming with something unsettling. "It's because of your attitude that you're a failure as a husband," he said, his voice dripping with malice. His words cut deep, like he knew more about my private life than he should. He covered his mouth slightly, pretending to regret what he said. "Oops, can't say any more than that," he added before heading outside for a smoke. I couldn't shake off his words and I followed him outside. I have a wife named Emily, 2 years younger than me, but our relationship has been strained lately. As Tom lit his cigarette, I confronted him, demanding to know what he meant. Tom just smirked, taking a long drag before blowing out a cloud of smoke. Then he dropped a bombshell. "Emily is going to remarry me." "What?" My hand trembled slightly as his words sank in. "It doesn't matter to you anyway, right? You were planning to divorce her soon, weren't you?" Tom's tone was mocking. It was true that Emily and I had been drifting apart, but I never intended to divorce her. I loved her and wanted to work on mending our relationship. But Tom was relentless. "You're too full of yourself. That's why she's leaving you," he sneered. Then, leaning closer, he whispered, "Do you know what Emily says about you? She says you're all talk." He laughed, tossing his cigarette butt into the ashtray, before delivering one last jab. "Your wife's the best," he said, walking back to the office, leaving me standing there, speechless. I'm just a regular office worker at an ordinary company in New York, and my romance with Emily began at work. We met during our new employee training, where we hit it off and eventually started dating. Our relationship progressed smoothly into marriage. Emily was always responsible, and I admired her work ethic. When we married, Emily wanted to keep working, but I insisted that she stay home and take care of the family. I promised to be the breadwinner, assuring her that I provide for us. Emily agreed, but said that if we had children, she'd quit her job to be a mother. After that, she resigned and became a full-time housewife. But in hindsight, that might have been when things started to change. The biggest issue between us was that we didn't have children. Emily became increasingly stressed, blaming herself for quitting her job when we couldn't start a family. Whenever I tried to comfort her, she pushed me away, yelling, "Don't touch me. You took my job away, and yet you keep working the same job. Why don't you bring home a promotion for once?" Her anger grew, and our arguments became more heated. For over 6 months, we went through a rough patch. During that time, she might have secretly started seeing my boss, Tom. Apparently, she called me all talk. My empty promises and inability to fulfill them had driven a wedge between us. I remember Tom always favoring Emily, and they might have kept in touch even after I married her. As our relationship soured, they probably started an affair. I wanted to confront Emily about everything, but when I got home, her belongings were gone. The affair was real, and having my wife taken by my nemesis boss was a humiliation beyond words. Nothing could have been more frustrating. Gradually, I couldn't stand working at the same company as Tom and decided to quit. Misfortune seemed to follow me everywhere. "Why are you quitting, Jack?" my colleagues would ask. I'd just smile and say, "I'm moving on to a new job." None of them knew about my divorce or her affair with Tom. I couldn't possibly tell them the truth. Maybe I should have sued for the affair, but all I wanted was to escape, to a place where I didn't have to see Tom's face. Being alone in the house felt even worse. The absence of Emily made our two-bedroom apartment feel vast and empty. Though I told my colleagues I was getting a new job, I had no motivation to start job hunting. I wandered aimlessly around the city until I found myself in the nightlife district. Maybe I should drink my sorrows away just for tonight, I thought. Standing in front of a bar that caught my eye, I resolved to drown my misery until morning and reached for the door. At that moment, I heard a woman's voice behind me saying, "There you are. I've missed you so much." Startled, I turned around to see a woman I didn't recognize, who then grabbed my arm and acted as if we were a couple, leaving me utterly confused. What?" I managed to stammer. The woman, still clinging to my arm, asked, "Where are we going tonight?" Her behavior was strange, but then I noticed something. Her arm was trembling slightly, and her smile seemed forced, like she was hiding fear. Something wasn't right. Thinking quickly, I decided to play along. "Well, let's go to a place you like," I said, trying to sound natural. She nodded slightly, relief washing over her face, and eagerly said, "Yay. Follow me, please." I followed her lead as she guided me to a nightclub. Once we were standing in front of the club, she sighed in relief. "Thank you for going along with my story. I managed to get through that thanks to you." The woman introduced herself as Ashley, though she admitted it was an alias she used at the club. "I was invited by Ashley. Please come with me," she said, leading me to a seat inside. Once we were seated, she explained why she had pretended to know me. "I've actually been stalked by a customer who keeps insisting on an after-party. He's this awful old guy who touches me inappropriately. I always refuse because who knows what he might do if I went with him," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "I see. So you clung to me or any guy nearby because you felt in danger?" I asked. "That's right," she nodded. "It was just awful, but I was saved because you were there. I really like dependable men," she added, placing her hand on my thigh. Ashley was a very beautiful woman, and just her touch was enough to make my heart race. Having been called unreliable by Emily and essentially discarded, Ashley's words rebuilt my shattered pride. "Let's enjoy the night," she said seductively, her eyes captivating me. Just then, a waiter approached and said, "Feel free to have a drink," offering us a menu. "I'll take you up on that offer," I said, reaching for the menu, but before I could grab it, something unexpected happened. "Excuse me," a woman suddenly intervened. "Hey, what's up, Sarah?" "I don't need help," Ashley said, her tone shifting. But the woman, whom Ashley called Sarah, glared at her intensely. "Ashley, please stop doing this," she said sternly. Ashley's demeanor changed abruptly, and she snapped. "What?" "Come with me," Sarah said, grabbing my arm and pulling me out of the club. As I was being dragged along, I couldn't help but wonder how many times I was going to be grabbed by a woman today. Once we were outside, Sarah looked around and said, "We should be safe here." "Sorry, Jack." "Oh no, it's okay. I'm getting used to being dragged around," I replied, still trying to process everything. "Wait, how do you know my name?" "Don't you recognize me?" she asked, turning to face me. I stared at her, trying to place her face. Suddenly, it clicked. "Lily, is that you?" Lily was a junior from my company. I had recently left the company, and my impression of Lily was that she was a very serious and quiet woman who barely wore makeup. But now, her mascara was dramatically curled, and her bold cheek and lip makeup made her look like a completely different person, a woman of the night. "You work here?" I asked, still trying to reconcile the Lily I knew with the person in front of me. Lily nodded. Sarah was her alias in the club. I knew the company allowed side jobs, but I never imagined she had this other side. "When I saw you come to the club, I was surprised," she admitted. "But since you left the company recently, I thought it wouldn't be a problem to talk to you. I didn't want to see a former senior getting tricked." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "That Ashley, she's been using some pretty nasty tactics to lure customers lately. Did she grab your arm and say she missed you, making up a story about being stalked by another customer?" Realizing she was right, I let out an involuntary gasp. Lily sighed, clearly troubled. "Just as I thought. It seemed you almost fell for a kind of theatrical scam." I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me. What a spectacle, in front of a junior no less. I'm so embarrassed. "Thanks for the help, Lily." "It's nothing really," she said. "The club had its eye on Ashley's behavior anyway. I'll report your case to the manager. That's a relief, I said, feeling grateful. Can I ask you something? What is it? She responded. Just curious, but why are you working at a place like this? I was surprised, I admitted. But you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I just wanted to drink until I pass out today. I feel lonely and wanted to hear someone's story. Feeling a bit pathetic for leaning on a junior, I braced myself and asked her. Lily seemed to ponder for a moment, then whispered, It's you, Jack, so I guess it would be fine. She took a deep breath and began her story. Actually, I'm being forced to work at this club, almost like it's against my will. What? I asked, shocked. My mother is a bit of a mess. After she divorced my father, she went off the deep end, got involved in some weird religion, and racked up a huge debt. Now I'm the one trying to pay it off. But that's your mother's debt, not yours, right? I protested. Lily turned her face away. I've always done whatever my mother told me to. She demanded money, so I just followed her orders. Lily shared that she had grown up enduring violence from her mentally unstable mother, which made it nearly impossible for her to defy her. I used to be a brighter girl, she confessed, but ever since my mother changed, I've become shy and gloomy. I hate what I've become. For the first time, I saw Lily's expression, usually so composed, twist in pain as she spoke these words. It must have been a very difficult life, a life bound by her mother. Watching her, I felt a strange urge to help. Why don't you just run away from your mother? I asked gently. Lily looked at me with surprise in her eyes. I've tried to run away so many times, but I'm scared. Her presence is just. Her shoulders trembled slightly, as if she were reliving unpleasant memories. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder. Then let me help you talk to your mother. Why would you go that far for me, Jack? She asked, bewildered. I shrugged and gave her a small smile. I got divorced, you know. About Emily, she was having an affair with Tom. A divorce? Really? She asked, shocked. Yes, I confirmed, trying to smile, but inside, I felt like crying. I ran away from that job. I had to escape. It's embarrassing and pathetic, but I ran and ran. I repeated the word ran and then added, I'm trying to grab onto the next happiness. I surprised myself. Just moments ago, I had been in the depths of despair, but now I could say something so positive. It's okay to run from the past. Now, next time, you just need to find happiness in the future. It felt like I was telling myself more than Lily. Right? I should also look forward, she said softly. The reason I wanted to help Lily was that I saw her on the same brink of despair I had been. When I looked up, our eyes met. Lily, with a slightly apologetic expression, asked, Will you really help me? I definitely will, I replied, determined. We later arranged to meet with her mother. A few days later, I went to Lily's family home and met her mother. Could you please let your daughter go? Let her be free, I pleaded. But her mother yelled back, Don't stick your nose into other people's family matters. Your daughter is an excellent worker, but if she keeps juggling a day job and a night job, she'll break down eventually. Are you okay with that? I found myself shouting, trying to reach her, but her mother refused to listen, and with a harsh tone, she threatened, If you say another word, I'll call the police. Just then Lily, with tears welling up in her eyes, said, Mom, please stop. I'm going to leave you. It seemed my words had given Lily the courage she needed. Despite her long-standing fear of her domineering mother, she now confronted her with all the frustration she'd been holding back. It was an ordeal so intense that I wondered if it was even appropriate for me, an outsider, to witness. The realization that her daughter was truly leaving must have struck her mother hard, as she suddenly pleaded, Please don't abandon me. But Lily's resolve didn't waver. Finally, she said goodbye and pulled my arm as we left the house. On the way home, Lily asked me, Was this the right thing to do? It was, I reassured her. Take some time away from her. You can meet her again later, but for now, just take care of yourself. As I said this, Lily seemed to find some resolution. For the first time, she showed me a genuine smile, saying, You're right. Let me treat you to something as a thank you next time. Her smile soothed my troubled heart. I never knew Lily's smile could be so lovely. I found myself gazing at her for a long while. From that day on, our relationship changed from former colleagues to companions who had shared tough experiences. Later, Lily and I started dating. She became brighter, more beautiful, and always shared her smiles with me. Then, one day, I ran into the most unexpected people. It was my ex-wife, Emily, and my former boss, Tom. Wow, what's this? Are you two together now? That's quite a surprise, Tom said, looking astonished as he switched his gaze between Lily and me. Emily, on the other hand, awkwardly averted her eyes from me. My heart almost stopped upon encountering these two, the very source of my trauma. I braced myself for what they might say, but surprisingly, it was Lily who spoke first. Tom, have you found a new job yet? She asked casually. It was too late by the time Tom responded. Hey, wait. Emily turned to him, demanding, What do you mean, new job? That guy caused some problems at the workplace, so he's resigning at the end of this month as part of taking responsibility. So good luck, Tom, Lily said with a sly grin, then pulled my arm, saying, Let's go. As we walked past them, I could hear Emily and Tom's loud argument fade into the distance. Feeling a bit relieved, Lily grinned and said, That was a little payback for the two who hurt you. Her dependable smile made me smile too. With Lily, I felt I could find happiness again. This incident made me sure of her love for me. In fact, I've already purchased an engagement ring and have it tucked away in my room. I'm secretly planning to give it to her in the near future.
Shame on you for firing someone who simply wanted to help a veteran. Linda was a kind-hearted hairstylist who offered a free haircut to a struggling veteran. Her generous act of kindness cost her job, but it didn't go unnoticed. Just 30 minutes later, an unexpected visitor arrived at the salon, changing Kelly's life forever. Hi everyone, welcome. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. Let's dive in. Linda, a young woman in her late 20s, worked at a beauty salon. While her peers pursued high-flying careers, Linda chose to become a hairstylist, a passion she had nurtured since childhood. Despite her parents' disapproval and insistence on a more traditional career path, Linda followed her heart. She dreamt of one day owning her own salon, even though the job offered modest earnings. When she was just 19, Linda's parents kicked her out of the house for refusing to attend college and study engineering, as her father had wanted. Fortunately, within weeks, she found a job at Mara's beauty salon, where she worked for 6 years. Linda lived in a small town where everyone knew each other, and news spread quickly. Mara's beauty salon was one of the largest in town, with over 50% of the townspeople getting their hair done there. But it wasn't just the salon size that drew customers, it was Linda. She was passionate about her work, always cheerful, kind, and had a great sense of humor. Linda made sure every customer felt welcome, providing top-notch service and remembering the names of her clients and their children, if they had any. She genuinely cared about the people she served. One summer day, Linda arrived at the salon around 8:00 a.m. as usual, but decided to make a quick stop at a street coffee stand first. At the stand, she bumped into Jason, a man in his early 40s who had once served in the military. Everyone in town knew Jason's story, how he struggled to adapt to civilian life after years of service, and how his wife had divorced him shortly after his return. Jason's life had spiraled downward after the divorce. He became depressed, lost touch with reality, and was unable to keep a job or take care of himself. Most days, he relied on the kindness of the townspeople for support. That day, like many others, Jason was dressed scruffily, with unkempt hair and beard. "Hey Jason, how are you doing today?" Linda asked in an excited tone as she spotted him at the coffee stand. "Hi, Linda. I'm fine. It's great to see you again," Jason responded with a smile. "Want some coffee?" Linda offered. "Oh, I wouldn't want to be a bother," Jason replied hesitantly. "Come on, we're friends, Jason. Why would you be a bother?" Linda chuckled, then turned to the coffee vendor and asked for another cup of coffee for Jason. Shortly after, Jason's coffee was ready. The two of them grabbed their cups and began walking toward the salon, which was just a short distance away. As they walked, Linda and Jason chatted about everyday things, and Linda could tell that her small gesture had lifted Jason's spirits. He sounded happier, and his smile came more easily. When they arrived at the front of the salon, Jason thanked Linda again for the coffee and was about to say goodbye when Linda stopped him. "One more thing, Jason. If you're free later today, why don't you come by the salon? I'll give you a haircut. It's on me," Linda said with a wide smile. "Oh no, you don't have to. You've already done more than enough," Jason said, taken aback by her generosity. "I insist, Jason. It's on me. Come by whenever you're free. I'll be waiting for you," Linda replied warmly. "Thank you so much, Linda. I'll come by later today," Jason said gratefully before walking away. After opening the salon for the day, Linda couldn't stop thinking about Jason and how much his life had changed. Once a man the whole town admired and looked up to as a hero, Jason's life had taken a downturn after he left the military. Later that afternoon, Linda had just finished attending to a customer when Jason walked into the salon. As soon as she was done, she asked Jason to sit down, wrapped a neck strip around his collar, and draped the cape over him. About 10 minutes into the haircut, Linda's boss, Mrs. Sidney, a woman in her early 40s, walked into the salon. Known throughout the town as a rude businesswoman who cared only about money and never about others' feelings, Sidney's presence immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. At first, when Sidney saw Linda attending to Jason, she didn't say a word. Instead of heading to her office, Sidney took a seat near Jason, silently watching them. When Linda finally finished cutting Jason's hair and shaving his beard, Jason thanked her sincerely and was about to leave when Sidney spoke up. "Jason, where's your payment?" Sidney demanded. Linda quickly intervened. "About that, you can take it out of my paycheck. I wanted to treat him." "No, Linda. I can't allow that," Sidney replied coldly. "I didn't build this business by giving away free haircuts to people who can't afford to pay." "No, ma'am, you're mistaken," Linda explained. "Jason didn't come here on his own. I invited him to give him a haircut. I saw him earlier today, and I don't care if you saw him today or 10 years ago." Sidney cut her off, her voice rising. "If Jason doesn't pay for that haircut, then you're fired." "Please, it hasn't come to that. Let me," Jason began, trying to mediate. "There's no need, Jason. You can go ahead. I'll join you shortly," Linda said calmly, reassuring him. With a heavy heart, Jason reluctantly walked out of the salon. As Jason left, some townspeople noticed he looked unusually downcast. Concerned, a woman approached him. "Jason, is everything all right?" "No, everything's not all right," Jason replied in a sad and defeated tone. "The nice salon lady gave me a free haircut, and her boss fired her for it." "You're not serious, are you?" a man standing nearby asked, shocked. "I know Linda. She's a good person. Why would her boss do that?" As Jason tried to explain what had happened, more people gathered around, curious about the commotion. When they heard the story, their outrage grew, and soon the news spread like wildfire through the town. Somehow, the news reached the mayor. Hearing that Linda was being punished for her kindness, the mayor decided to take action. Meanwhile, back at the salon, Linda was cleaning up, unaware of the storm brewing outside. She had no idea that Jason had told so many people about her boss firing her for her act of kindness. 30 minutes after Jason left the salon, the mayor walked in with Jason by his side, just as Linda was about to grab her bag and leave. As soon as Sidney, Linda's boss, saw the mayor, she rushed over to greet him. Outside, Linda and Jason could see a crowd gathering behind the mayor. "Welcome, Mr. Mayor. To what do we owe this pleasant surprise?" Sidney asked, trying to sound cheerful. But the mayor ignored her, turning to Linda instead. "Hello, Linda. Is it true that your boss fired you because you gave Mr. Jason here a free haircut?" the mayor asked. When the mayor asked, Linda noticed her boss subtly shaking her head, signaling Linda to lie. But Linda stood her ground. Yes, Mayor, that's true. I was just about to leave before you walked in, Linda answered honestly. For your kindness, Linda, the townspeople, and I have decided to reward you with a little something. This is to show our appreciation for your compassion and to encourage you to continue being the good person you are, the mayor said, handing Linda a certificate of recognition and a large white envelope. Linda's joy soared as she received the certificate and took a photo with the mayor. When she later opened the envelope and saw the amount of money inside, she could hardly contain her happiness. Grateful for the support, Linda made a decision that would change her life forever. A few months later, Linda opened her own beauty salon with the money she had received from the mayor. The townspeople, eager to support her, stopped going to Mora's beauty salon and chose to get their haircuts and braids done at Linda's new salon. The overwhelming success led to an expansion, with a second branch opening soon after, and Linda's income continued to grow. As for Sydney, she was forced to close her beauty salon after losing all her customers. She learned a hard lesson, but by then, it was too late to save her business. The true currency of life isn't money. It's the kindness we give and receive. Invest wisely. If you love this story, tap that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments.
After 4 long years since saying goodbye to her daughter and son-in-law, Abigail continued to fight an internal battle against the deep pain of loss. Yet during a walk with her grandchildren, something extraordinary happened. She saw the deceased couple. This seemingly impossible encounter was about to unravel dark mysteries. I hope you enjoy this story. Nothing is more chilling than watching the news and seeing the growing whirlwind of violence that plagues our times. But what happens when this cruel and cold reality, which we often watch as mere spectators, ruthlessly bursts through our door, sinking its sharp claws into our history? Mrs. Abigail experienced this anguish up close when cruel fate entered without warning, turning her life into a kaleidoscope of fear and despair. In an instant, her peaceful existence shattered like a broken mirror, reflecting a distorted reality. That evening, Abigail was preparing a delicious meal because her grandchildren were coming to stay the night. A tasty cake, the favorite of Amy and Charlie, her 3-year-old twin grandchildren, was already on the table. They were staying with their grandmother so that their parents, Mary and her husband, could attend a play they had been looking forward to. The house was filled with liveliness and joy upon the children's arrival. After the farewells, Abigail was left alone with the twins as the couple set off for their evening out. Abigail cherished having her grandchildren around. They were the light of her life. Together, they had fun, with Abigail sharing stories that made the children's eyes sparkle with excitement. Putting them to bed was easy after a day full of activities that left them exhausted. Meanwhile, not far away, Mary and her husband were enjoying a rare night out alone. Since the twins' arrival, moments like this had become increasingly scarce. But this night was special. It was meant to reignite the flame that time had threatened to extinguish. After the play ended, they decided to visit a restaurant that held memories from the early days of their relationship, a place filled with sighs and reminiscences. The restaurant was just a few blocks away from the theater, allowing them to savor the spring air and each other's company during a leisurely walk. Hand in hand, they strolled through the serene night, illuminated by soft moonlight and bright stars. A gentle breeze caressed their skin, and the scene felt like something out of a fairy tale, a perfect image that reminded them of the first pages of their love story. But as in all great tales, an unexpected twist was about to occur. As they chose a dark alley to shorten their journey, a terrifying scene unfolded before them. The street's darkness grew dense and ominous, and suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged from the shadows, gripping a weapon with menacing intent. Violence hung palpably in the air, and his sharp words cut through the silence as he demanded they hand over everything they had. Now faced with a life-or-death situation, the couple's hearts raced with fear. They knew they couldn't risk their lives for material possessions. With trembling hands, they began to hand over their belongings when suddenly the night's silence was pierced by the sharp sound of a police siren. The assailant, already on edge, flinched like a cornered animal. Panic overtook him, and without thinking, he abruptly fired the weapon at the couple. The gunshot echoed through the night, a single flash of light tearing through the darkness. Mary and her husband, now involuntary targets, were struck by the same bullet. The searing pain was followed by the reverberating sound of the gunshot bouncing off the alley walls. The ominous noise caught the attention of the approaching police, and a brief but intense chase unfolded, like shadows dancing in the night. Eventually, the assailant was cornered and silence returned, an oppressive, heavy silence filled with tragedy. In that dark and unforgiving alley, fate had woven a treacherous path. Mary and her husband's bodies now lay lifeless on the cold ground, victims of a series of events beyond their control. The alley, a silent witness, held the secrets of that fateful night. In the early hours of the morning, a phone rang, shattering the silence with an urgency that made Abigail's heart race. She answered, and the news on the other end hit her like a lightning bolt, a shock that pierced deep into her soul. Her only daughter and son-in-law were dead, their lives snuffed out in an instant. The shock rippled through her like an emotional earthquake, shaking the very foundations of her world. Tears flowed as she grappled with a flood of complex and indescribable emotions. The void that opened before her seemed endless, a dark abyss threatening to swallow her whole. The cruelty of life being extinguished so senselessly was almost impossible to comprehend. Now, Abigail was faced with a new and daunting responsibility, raising her grandchildren, Amy and Charlie. These two young, curious souls, only 3 years old, carried the weight of losing their parents in a world they were just beginning to understand. Every day, their sad and innocent questions cut through the air. Where are Mommy and Daddy? How could she explain the profound absence of their beloved parents? How could she make them understand that they would never return? It was a heartbreaking task, a challenge for which no one is ever truly prepared. As time, relentless as always, moved forward, Abigail and the children found ways to cope with the loss. A new routine slowly emerged, a fragile balance between sorrow and the necessity to move on. Together, they began to build a narrative that honored the memory of the absent parents while allowing space for new joys. However, their approaches to dealing with the loss differed. The children surprisingly sought to remember and share stories about their parents, as if trying to keep them alive through words. Each memory became a thread that kept them connected to their past. Abigail, on the other hand, chose to carry her pain in silence. The wound was too deep, the loss a shadow that darkened every aspect of her life. Speaking about it, confronting the intensity of her grief, felt like tearing her heart apart over and over again. 4 years passed since that dreadful night. The twins, now 7 years old, had found in their grandmother a source of love and care. Yet Abigail felt an immense burden on her shoulders, a responsibility that went beyond mere caregiving. The task before her was monumental, to raise these two children to be kind, compassionate, and resilient despite the tragedy that had marked their early lives. Despite everything, it was school vacation time, and a friend of Abigail's, sensing the need for a break, extended a thoughtful invitation. She invited Abigail and her grandchildren for a few days' retreat at a cozy cabin in the mountains. The idea of escaping the daily routine, leaving worries behind, and offering the children a chance for fun and relaxation brought a rare smile to Abigail's face. The scenery was breathtaking, the cabin nestled in the heart of the mountain, blending seamlessly with the wild beauty of the landscape. Surrounding them, nature unfolded in all its splendor, with the final touch of beauty being the panoramic view of a large lake at the mountain's base, reflecting the sky like a mirror. The children, full of energy and excitement, immediately set out to explore their surroundings. Abigail watched with tenderness as they embarked on this new adventure, but ever the concerned guardian, she reminded them not to venture too far into the forest and to stay close to the cabin so they wouldn't get lost. As the first day turned to dusk, the sun cast warm, golden hues across the horizon. The children continued to play outside while Abigail and her friend prepared dinner. Then the peaceful retreat took an unexpected and alarming turn. Abigail's granddaughter, Amy, suddenly rushed into the cabin, her breath uneven and her eyes wide with urgency. The small, panting figure carried an unsettling restlessness as she recounted a story that froze the air in the room. Amy explained that she and her brother Charlie had been playing hide and seek in the nearby forest, but the game took a terrifying turn when she lost track of Charlie. Despite her insistent calls, there was no response from him. Abigail's friend, familiar with the area, immediately recognized the danger. The forest was a labyrinth of tangled trees and hidden paths, a place where a young child could easily become disoriented. Realizing the urgency, she grabbed the phone and began calling other nearby residents. The gravity of the situation quickly mobilized the community into action. As daylight dwindled, each passing minute made the search more challenging. Shadows grew longer, swallowing the clues that could lead to Charlie. The searchers pressed on, their lanterns cutting through the darkness like stars in a night sky. But strangely, it was as if Charlie had vanished, his footsteps swallowed by the forest. Amy, standing by the searchers, did her best to provide information about where she and Charlie had been, but her resilience was beginning to crumble. She was like a house of cards, unable to withstand the growing storm of fear and exhaustion. Abigail's friend, noticing Amy's exhausted state, suggested that she be taken back to the cabin to rest. Promising that the search would continue, she reassured Amy that everything would be okay. Tenderly supporting her granddaughter, Abigail led her back to the cabin. Inside, as they lay together, Abigail stroked Amy's hair, trying to provide comfort. The fatigue of the tumultuous day weighed heavily on her as well, and her mind was a whirlwind of worries and silent prayers. As Amy's eyes slowly closed, carried away by exhaustion, Abigail too succumbed to sleep, though it was restless, an uneasy dance of dreams and worries intertwining in a whirlpool of thoughts. In this half-dreaming state, Abigail experienced something that seemed to transcend the bounds of mere dreaming. Her eyes, though closed, saw with a clarity she had never known. It was a dream, yet so vivid and tangible that she could feel every breeze, every detail of the environment around her. In that vivid dream, Abigail found herself standing in the cabin, looking out the window. But what she saw through the glass defied all explanation. There before her stood her daughter and son-in-law, the very ones who had been taken by tragedy 4 years ago. Abigail's heart raced as she watched them. Their smiles were radiant, their eyes filled with a peace she could hardly comprehend. An invisible force seemed to draw her, a silent call she couldn't ignore. Without hesitation, she followed the couple as they stepped into the forest, each of their movements like a beacon guiding her way. Abigail's heart pounded as she followed, her feet moving with determination, yet no matter how hard she tried, they remained just out of reach. Their hands were intertwined, their faces calm and serene as they ventured deeper into the forest. Their figures gradually blended with the night shadows until finally they stopped. Before them lay a small crevice in the mountain, an entrance to a tiny cave. Abigail's heart raced, her emotions swirling. She met her daughter Mary's gaze, and in that moment, Mary's smile shone like a gentle light. Her words echoed in Abigail's mind. Thank you, Mom, for taking care of my babies. With a sudden jolt, Abigail woke up, her heart pounding, her hands trembling. She sat up in bed, looking beside her where Amy slept peacefully, unaware of the profound journey her grandmother had just experienced. Without hesitation, Abigail rushed out of the cabin, her heart pounding with urgency. She called out, I know where Charlie is. Her words were a mix of desperation and conviction as she asked if anyone knew of a small cave in the forest, one that matched the description she had seen in her dream. The words flowed from her with a confidence she didn't fully understand. The small cave Abigail described wasn't far from the cabin. The volunteers quickly gathered their lanterns and ventured into the forest. And there, inside the crevice in the mountain, was Charlie. His small, brave figure was bathed in the light of the lanterns, his face a mixture of surprise and relief. Abigail was overcome with awe and gratitude. It felt as if angels, her deceased daughter and son-in-law, had guided her to Charlie through that vision, existing at the edge between dream and reality. The sensation was indescribable, transcending mere words. This experience profoundly changed how Abigail lived with her grief and longing for her lost daughter. The grief hadn't disappeared, but it had found a place where it could coexist with a newfound sense of comfort. Abigail began to find joy in memories of her daughter, not just in tears and sadness, but also in shared laughter and moments filled with love. The vision had brought her deep peace, especially in her role of raising her grandchildren. She had seen Mary's smile and felt her gratitude in that vision, a silent confirmation that she was doing a good job. And so, in the quiet of that night in the mountains, Abigail found a peace she could never have predicted. Whether it was a dream, a gift from heaven, or something beyond human understanding, the vision had transformed her pain into something more, something that transcended sadness. If you enjoyed the story, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel Stam Talk. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 10 to let us know how much you liked it. Also, be sure to check out the video currently on your screen. See you soon.